Welcome back to this Files One News special report. Exonerated, guilty until proven innocent. Nationwide, New York State ranks third in overturned convictions, with at least 28 people serving time for crimes they never committed. Frank Sterling was one of them. He was facing the real prospect of never seeing the outside of a prison again. An innocent man, charged, convicted, now confined to a small prison cell.
Trying to wonder when the nightmare was ending. Didn't know it was going to take 18 years.
Today, it is undisputed that Frank Sterling is an innocent man. But in 1992, based on what would later be proven to be a false confession, he was convicted of murder and sent to prison. Did anyone tell you what to expect?
No.
Did you know what to expect?
No. When I first got there, it's like, oh boy, the did I get myself into?
Prison is traumatic enough for the guilty, but Frank was totally innocent. Did you see a lot of violence in prison?
Oh yeah. The guy who was sitting next to me lost his eye. I was sitting at the dinner table.
Attacked by another inmate?
Yep. Just because they didn't have enough money to get bar soap, so he didn't take a shower.
So if you don't have enough money and you don't take a shower, another inmate might attack you?
Yeah.
Hope in prison has to be a rare commodity.
Yeah.
Did you go through bouts of depression?
All the time. Got angry.
Still, Frank did try to make the best of his time behind bars. He enrolled in the prison's college program and earned his associate's degree. It was the first positive milestone since his incarceration, one he would never get to share with his father.
And Dad's health started to go downhill.
After the first 2 years of your incarceration in prison, your father passed away?
Yep.
How did you find out?
Mom called down there. I know his health is going, but I think it was 3 months after I saw him last. He's basically my size. When he passed away, he was 40 pounds.
And it wasn't just the fact that he lost those last remaining years with his father. Frank would also learn that Mark Christie, the man ignored by police during the investigation, and the man who would actually turn out to be Viola Manville's real killer, had murdered again. How many years had you been in prison at that point?
5.
So had you not been convicted?
I would have been released. Kaylee Bolton could still be alive today.
How old was she when she was murdered?
4 years old. Just no tears up because they could have prevented that murder. They would have listened.
Do you blame the police for that murder?
Yeah.
What about the system?
And system.
Is there any part of you that blames yourself for her death?
Myself, no. My hands were tied.
For most of us, living behind bars day after day, knowing you're innocent is incomprehensible. Well, imagine it happened to one of your family members, a loved one. On Long Island, back in 1987, Dennis Halstead was wrongfully convicted in a Nassau County courtroom of raping and murdering a woman. DNA evidence would eventually set him free, but not before he spent 16 years behind bars for crimes he never committed. These days, Halstead lives in Florida. But recently I was able to spend time with him and his daughter, Melissa Lulo, at Melissa's Oceanside home. Now, due to an ongoing civil suit, Halstead's attorneys would not allow him to speak on camera. But Melissa opened up to us about the years she'll never get back with her father. And how old were you when he was arrested?
10.
What was that like for you?
I don't know that I knew what it really meant. It was sad. My mother was really strong. She kept us all really strong. I remember her getting the phone call that he was found guilty. I answered the phone. I don't think that I knew what it really meant. That it was permanent.
If you could, I know this is tough, if you could take us back to the day that the police took your father away, do you remember where you were?
I don't. My mother really sheltered us and kept us away from all that.
How long did it take for it to sink in that your dad was in trouble?
I don't think it sunk in for like a good year that this, this was real. He's not coming home.
And this is before he was actually convicted, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel when your mother told you that he had been found guilty? You said you didn't quite understand it.
When I answered the phone and the attorney asked my mother, she spoke to them, and then I just remember her hanging up the phone and putting her arms out to us and like trying to make us happy, like let's go to McDonald's or something. And
you didn't know what that meant?
I really don't think I knew the full scope of what was going on.
Did you visit your father while he was in prison? Mm-hmm. How often growing up were you able to visit him?
Not that often. When he was in the county jail, I was able to go twice a week. But once you got, Elmira and all the prisons upstate, it was hard. I was lucky if it was twice a year.
Twice a year you were able to see your father. Did you correspond with him?
We wrote numerous letters, and he called all the time.
And you've told me earlier that some of these letters you still have, right? Are you able
all of them. I never threw a letter out that he sent me.
Are you able to go back and read them at this point?
I don't read them.
Why not?
It reminds me of what I went through, what he went through. It reminds me of myself as a child and how hard it was.
Growing up, there comes a point, the teenage years, you start to date. What was that like if you met somebody that didn't necessarily know your background?
I didn't tell a lot of my boyfriends. I do remember specifically telling my husband when we were dating, and that was really hard.
Did he ever have conversations with your father while he was in prison?
Yeah, a lot. He asked my father to have my hand. He wanted to marry me, and he asked my dad.
How did he do that?
Over the phone, he had to do it, tell him he was going to propose to me.
So he had to call your father in prison to ask his permission to marry you?
To marry his daughter, yeah. Again, I can't imagine what my father felt, knowing that our lives are still going,
Have you ever been able to have any conversations with your father about your experiences growing up?
We talk about it.
What kind of conversations do you have?
I don't like to get into it with him. I just don't want him to be hurt. I can't imagine as a mother being taken away from my children. So I just think it's so much harder for him.
Have you tried to have any conversations with your father about what he went through while he was in prison?
He tells me all the time. He doesn't get into depth about how horrific it was. Once in a while he'll give us a story, but it's all very, he filters it. He doesn't let us know really what happened.
From the depths of despair to a second chance. Coming up, science lends Frank Sterling a helping hand, but not everyone in the criminal justice system is on board. Plus,
They wanted to execute me for a crime I didn't do.
Wrongfully convicted, 3 exonerees speak out about the devastating impact on their own lives as well as the lives of their families. You're watching Exonerated, Guilty Until Proven Innocent.